Hi, and welcome to CPC Leadership Talks, a new podcast dedicated to the Conservative Party of Canada leadership race. My name is Élie Cantin-Nantel, and I hope to bring you genuine conversations with prominent people about what the future of the Conservative Party should look like. For the premiere of this show, I have the great privilege of interviewing leadership candidate Dr. Leslyn Lewis. Dr. Lewis made headlines in the 2020 leadership race, where she won the popular vote on the second ballot. She has since become Member of Parliament for Haldimand Norfolk. Dr. Lewis is also a lawyer and holds multiple university degrees from many prestigious Canadian post-secondary institutions. Politically, Lewis is considered to be a social conservative. If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe and hit that notification bell. And if you're listening to the audio version of this podcast, consider adding it to your library. So Leslyn, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
So why did you feel the need to run again for the leadership of the Conservative Party of Canada?
Well, Ellie, the last time I ran, there were a lot of pressing issues that I felt that I needed to be involved in order to get that messaging out to the Canadian public. And I just was very concerned about the direction of the country, the future of Canada. And these concerns are still present. And I feel that we need to bring back hope, unity, and compassion into our country. And I'm concerned, Ellie, that the Canada that I grew up in is not going to be there for my children. And that was something that I felt the last leadership race also. I'm concerned about our economy, the environment, and now even more so, I'm concerned about government encroachment upon our freedoms.
Yes, these are all valid points. Since the last leadership race where you did win the popular vote, you have been elected by the people of Haldimand Norfolk to be their Member of Parliament. Have you taken on any initiatives to advance maybe the cause that you've listed? Or I know you're very passionate about life and family issues. Like, what have you done since you've been an MP to advance these causes?
Well, my primary concern has been the residents of Haldimand and Norfolk. And so there's issues outside, beyond things that I'm personally tied to that I also advance. But with respect to, for example, the life issues, I've attended rallies for pregnancy care centers, and there was a pregnancy care center in my riding, actually, of Haldimand Norfolk, that was very, very concerned that they were going to lose their ability to function because there were some underlined threats about perhaps shutting down pregnancy care centers that were emanating from the Liberal government. And so they were very, very concerned about that. A number of life organizations did get together and they came to Ottawa. And so myself and Kathy Wagenthal, we had an opportunity to go and to greet them because they came all that way. I think it's very, very important that someone be there to hear what they have to say. And they also tendered a petition to make sure that people understand what they do at these pregnancy care centers, that they're caring for many women who are in distress, some women who have had unplanned pregnancies and have decided that they want to carry the baby through term and have the baby. And they may not have the resources to do so. And so the pregnancy care center steps in to assist them. I've spent some time at those centers, and so there are also programs there for men to teach them to be better fathers and to teach parents how to make sure that the children have good diets. And also I was surprised to see that there was even almost like a store there where you could go in and people bring new things and slightly used items to donate, and you can go in and pick up things for your family if you can't afford that. So I think it's a very, very important part of our society. And I think that it's recognizing that when a woman chooses to have a baby, and if the situation may be tough, that it's compassionate to provide assistance for her. And sometimes these children are kept, and sometimes they're given up for adoption to a loving family.
Yeah, for sure. And you're right. Pregnancy care centers are so important in my view to, the question of how do we help women who choose to have a baby. And I think that it's crucial for there to be that care and compassion through these pregnancy care centers. We're going to stay on this topic. You brought up Kathy Wangenthal, and so I'm going to ask you a question regarding sex-selective abortion. This was something that you promised to ban last time. It's something that the majority of Canadians agree with, including Quebec, which is known to be the pretty liberal pro-abortion province. However, when Kathy Wagenthal presented C-233, the Sex Selective Abortion Act, the majority of MPs, I believe it was 75%, voted against it, including the leader, Erin O'Toole. And this was not because the bill was bad, but it was because of the optics around this being an abortion bill, and it gave easy ammunition to the Liberals, the legacy media, and the pro-abortion lobby to attack the Conservatives and say, the Conservatives are anti-women. Other countries that have had issues with sex-selective abortion have opted to ban the practice of fetal sex determination, which is, when you can tell the baby is a boy or girl through ultrasound. So don't you think this could be a wiser and less divisive policy for Conservatives to adopt?
Yeah, and actually, if even in Canada, if you're getting artificial insemination, you can't choose the gender of the fetus. So it's something that people like myself who advocate for women's rights, we recognize that protecting women means that we protect women at all stages. And so anything that can be construed as misogynistic and attacking a woman, or a female in the womb, it's very important that we address those issues, because they manifest into real life issues where women's values are diminished. And so if it starts by diminishing a baby in the womb because it's a girl, then that will manifest itself into how we treat women in general.
Yeah, that's true. Let's talk about another social issue, and that is when I went in the news in this latest parliament, that's conversion therapy. A lot of people, including a lot of Conservatives, view conversion therapy as being, this evil practice rooted in bigotry, because, it seeks to change one's sexual orientation. That's something that's been scientifically discredited and has shown to also be, harmful in for those who partake in it. In the last leadership race, you had promised to repeal the then Bill C-8, and you're on the basis that it was putting pastors and parents at risks of going to jail for having conversations regarding these topics. So I agree with you. The wording is vague, and I've even heard some people tell me that the Liberals put it this way on purpose for Conservatives to vote against it. But at the same time, if we allow conversion therapy to continue, that also creates harms, and it also encroaches on other people's freedoms. So would any amendments by a Leslyn Lewis government to Bill C-4 maintain the full ban on conversion therapy?
Well, firstly, I just want to correct the record. I didn't say that I was going to repeal C-8, because C-8 wasn't a law. It was actually before Parliament and committee. So as at that point in time, I wasn't elected, but I supported um, a bill, as I do for any bill, going through the full legislative cycle. So I think that as a legislator, I think even if it's your bill, it is important to go through committee, hear from witnesses, hear about the inadvertent impacts could arise out of the bill. And I want to state for the record that conversion therapy, as I understand it, administering nauseous substance to people to force them to change their sexuality, or using devices to do that, I think is an atrocious practice. I don't support it. I think that it's important that we have policies in place that will allow parents to be supportive of children who are questioning their sexuality, or having some issues that they want to resolve and come to gender clarity on. And so I think it's important that we have policies in place to facilitate that, because it's a very tough time, Ellie, for parents. I've met many parents on the road who've come up to me and they've told me their stories about their children, and on various spectrums of the LGBTQ plus identity, and some children have multiple identities, and parents are trying to deal with all of these issues. And so I think we have to be compassionate and make sure that we're there for the parents. My concern is any bill that would limit or would put a chill on that loving parental involvement. I think that it needs to be flushed out. And so that was my concern with the bill, that we make sure that the definitions are clear, and we make sure that that parents have the ability to get involved, and that these children can have open and loving conversations with their parents about their future. And I think it's very important for parents to be involved at that stage. So I just wanted to clarify the bill wasn't in place, and so there was nothing to repeal. And in fact, the bill died because an election was called. And then, as you know, it came back up again as C4. And at that time, I was elected at that time.
All right. Well, let's move on to talking about more like party issues. Many grassroots conservative members believe that there is a need for reform after seeing how the then leader, Erin O'Toole, conducted himself. People say that he flip-flopped on almost every issue, that he alienated the base, and people went to the PPC. I was actually out working in Alberta during the last election, and I just remember door after door, people were just feeling so let down and abandoned. But then when he lost the election, he refused to have his membership reviewed by party members, basically refusing accountability by the base. He was fired by caucus later. But do you think the next leader of the party, it could be you, should be more accountable to the base? And would you support a party policy, where the leader would face an automatic leadership review by the whole membership 6 months after an election loss?
I think it's very, very important that whoever the leader is, that they have a connection to the base, and that we respect the membership. And the membership comes together at conventions, and they make policies. And while not all of those policies can be implemented, it's very important that the core policies, that they're respected. And if a leader does not respect those core policies and subsequently faces a loss at the ballot box, then there should be some mechanism of a review. And I don't think that it's outside of the best interests of the party to say that a review should be had, especially if the loss is worse than it was before, if you've lost more seats. Now, if you lost and like in Andrew Scheer's situation, he actually gained and reduced the majority that the Liberals had. And so I don't know that a review would have been necessary in that situation. And I also think that it's very important to be fair. I'm going to be very fair to Mr. O'Toole, because he did take over during very, very strenuous times. And he had a very, very tough job to do, to run the party during COVID. And he was able to jump in and within less than a year be in an election, which was tough. And it took a lot for him to get ready. So I do give him credit in that respect. And for that reason, I do believe that sometimes you need a longer period to see if a leader is the right one. And I do believe in second chances. I do believe that a leader should probably have two opportunities. But where there's been a break in the trust between the members, the grassroots, and the leadership, I think then there has to be a mechanism to call that leadership in review.
Yeah, that's fair. And I agree that in second chances, and sometimes when you build a movement, building that movement does, require an election loss. And on the same topic of elections, a place where really conservatives have been struggling since 2015 to make gains is Quebec. Quebecers tend to know the Conservative Party for not having the best French when it comes to leadership debates. On several occasions, you've been learning French, and I know that's something that you've been passionate about adding to your already impressive resume. So first of all, how is your French? And second of all, do you think that it's important for the next leader of the Conservative Party to be able to express themselves in both of Canada's national languages?
Absolutely. I think it's very important for the next leader to speak French. And that's why I've made an effort to do so, a very serious effort to do so. And my French is coming along very well. I can have conversations in French, and it's going to be a lot better than it was after the last debate. It's improving. And one thing I found about Francophones and people from Quebec is that they want to see an effort. They don't ask for miracles. They ask to be respected and respected like everyone else. And they don't ask for miracles. They want to see that the person is trying. And I find that they're far more supportive than Anglophones, far more supportive. They actually want to see you succeed. And I'm not sure that all Anglophones want to see that. They sometimes use it as a wedge to try to cause division. And I don't find that amongst the people of Quebec. I find that once you're serious about learning the language, that they accept you.
Oui, vous avez raison. Moi, personnellement, même quand j'ai vu votre français au premier débat versus vers la fin de la campagne, vous aviez fait une vidéo sur le Québec, puis c'était juste voir ça. Déjà, il y avait des améliorations, puis ça, moi, je trouvais ça impressionnant. So, I was going to ask you, since we have a bit of time left, how have you, because you've been through a lot since the last race, you were elected, and you've now you know what it is like to sit in caucus and to have a seat in the House of Commons. How have you changed? How is the Leslyn Lewis of 2021? How is she different, or maybe is she the same? Like, what do you have to offer now that maybe you didn't have to offer last time?
Well, I think that just being in Parliament, it's obviously being on the other side, and sometimes you see the processes of how things are done, and they're not necessarily done as expeditiously as you would like them. And so working within the system and working through the processes is something that you develop and act for. It's also nice to be amongst colleagues and see the support that you have internally, and collaborate various projects and initiatives, I think, is also exciting. Yeah, it's just a very different perspective.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it was so great to speak with you again. It's nice to see you take this lead and run again, and I wish you the best of luck with your campaign.
Well, thank you so much. Take care.
And this concludes this episode of CPC Leadership Talks. If you enjoyed it, consider sharing it with a friend or two. And stay tuned as I have more great conversations coming soon.